If your field technicians still spend 20 minutes after every job typing notes, you're losing more than time. You're losing data accuracy. What if those work orders wrote themselves straight from your text spoken updates? Today, we'll unpack how Dynamics 365 Copilot is reshaping field service workflows and why it's not just about saving minutes, it's about creating a system that connects technicians, managers, and customers in real time. By the end, you'll see how the gap between job done and job documented is disappearing entirely. The paperwork bottleneck you don't see. In most service teams, the slowest part of the day isn't the repair itself. It's everything that happens after the tool bag goes back in the van. A technician might spend 40 minutes diagnosing and fixing an issue and then burn another 20 or 30 minutes documenting it. That's more than a coffee break's worth of time per job, going into forms, drop-down menus, and duplicate systems. Managers rarely see this in real time. They just notice jobs slipping off schedule by an hour or two by the end of the day. The cause looks like traffic or overbooking, but often it's the admin drag that follows every completed job. The current process still feels like something from the 90s. A tech wraps up the task, jots down what they did in a pocket notebook or on the back of the service ticket, then maybe snaps a couple of quick photos for proof. If they're organized, they'll try to type notes into their tablet before driving off. More often, they save it up for the end of the shift when they're sitting in the van or at home, chasing the memory of what happened 6 or 7 jobs ago. Each system needs its own form. Parts usage goes in one app, service details in another, customer comments into a third. None of it happens fast and none of it happens while the details are fresh. That delay has hidden costs. When you're tired at the end of the day, you fill in the basics and skip anything that isn't mandatory. Small details disappear, which parts you swapped out, which bolts needed torque, that odd noise the customer heard before things failed. Rushed inputs lead to incomplete records, and incomplete records are bad fuel for scheduling, billing, and warranty claims. It's not just about speed, it's about fidelity. Cognitive research puts the average human error rate for routine manual data entry at several percent, and with each re-entry or copy-paste between systems, those errors compound. That means one wrong serial number can travel from the technician's note into the CRM, onto the customer's invoice, and into inventory counts before anyone catches it. Picture this. A heater repair wraps up at 10:40 a.m. The tech should be on the road to the next site by 10:45. Instead, they're in the van until 11:10, filling in a service history from scribbled notes, trying to remember if they used 1.5 meters of pipe or 2. Each job slips the rest of the day, and the pressure builds. By mid-afternoon, the team is running behind. The back office staff is waiting on complete work orders to close out jobs, order replacement stock, and trigger invoices. If they don't get the info until the evening, everything shifts a day. The bottleneck doesn't just live in the field. Admin teams end up in a holding pattern, chasing details over email or phone, sometimes days after the fact. Reports that should guide next week's routing or inventory orders are based on guesswork because the underlying data is patchy. Multiply that across a dozen technicians, each doing 7 or 8 jobs a day, and you see how the lag balloons into something that affects inventory accuracy, cash flow, and even customer satisfaction scores. It's not a tech being slow, it's the way the system forces the admin work to be done disconnected from the actual task. The key thing here is that it's systemic. You can hire faster people or push for discipline, but when the workflow itself is built on manual capture after the event, the delays and errors are baked in. You can't produce accurate, timely reports if the source data gets entered hours later from fragmented nodes. And as much as field teams would love to keep their eyes on the job in front of them, there's no avoiding the fact that this paperwork is part of the work until you find a different way to capture it, which leads to the real opportunity. Imagine removing that manual typing without changing what the technician naturally does at the end of a job. The leap from slow, repetitive form filling to accurate, real-time documentation is closer than most teams expect, and it doesn't need to involve retraining your whole workforce. When your notes write themselves, imagine stepping off the customer's driveway, walking back to your truck, and by the time you close the door, your work order summary is already sitting in the system. No forms, no typing, no hunting for drop-downs. That's what happens when you replace end-of-day data entry with something that works in step with the way the job actually ends. Copilot listens to what the technician says right after the fix while everything's still top of mind and turns it into the kind of record your back office can actually use. The capture is as simple as hitting record and talking. Replaced circulation pump on unit 2, used one gasket kit, flushed lines, tested pressure, no leaks. That's all the tech has to do. The system isn't just transcribing. It knows who's speaking, which job they're on, who the customer is, and which asset was serviced. That context means it's not dumping a block of text into a notes field. It's connecting each detail to the right fields without the tech having to organize it. But if you've ever used basic speech to text, you know it's brittle. Miss a word, get background noise, and you end up editing half of it anyway. Copilot avoids that trap because it's not starting from zero. It already has the service history from the CRM, the list of parts allocated to that job, the previous technician's notes, warranty terms, and installation details. When it hears change pump, it can check the model for that site, match it to stocked parts, and log the replacement against that specific part number, not just the generic term. Take a pump repair as an example. The technician spends 90 seconds dictating what was done and what was observed. By the time that audio ends, Copilot has split the update into two things the business needs: structured fields, part numbers, quantities used, labor time, and a readable narrative for the service history. That narrative might note that the failure mode was similar to a case from last year, but resolved on the first visit this time. That extra insight stays attached to the asset record, which is valuable when the unit comes up for maintenance again. Because the AI pushes details straight into the right structure, it eliminates the double handling that dispatchers or admin staff would otherwise do, copying from raw text into reports, rekeying inventory usage, cross-checking warranty eligibility. The time that would have been spent cleaning up technician notes or chasing missing fields just doesn't exist anymore. And unlike freeform notes, this structured data slots neatly into reporting, analytics, and billing processes without someone having to fix it later. There's another subtle advantage here. By normalizing entries into a consistent format, Copilot makes trend analysis far more reliable. Abbreviations, misspellings, or different technicians naming the same part in different ways are flattened into a single accurate reference. That means when the operations manager looks for all jobs involving that pump model, they actually get a full list, not 80% of them, and a long tail of mismatched records. For the technician, it feels invisible. They stop spending 20 minutes per job on admin and gain that time back in their day. Over several jobs, that can mean fitting in an extra appointment without extending their shift. For the back office, it means getting richer, cleaner data instantly without bottlenecks tied to when the field team gets around to entering it. For the customer, it means reports, invoices, and follow-ups happen faster and with fewer errors. And while saving those minutes per job is a clear win, the accuracy upgrade downstream is just as important. Bad data at capture ripples into bad scheduling, wrong inventory orders, and missed warranty claims. A system that closes the capture gap also closes the error gap, which is harder to see, but just as costly. All of this is still focused on what happened, the work just finished. But once the system understands that context in real time, it's in a position to do more than document. It can start suggesting the next step before the technician even asks. Real-time troubleshooting support. What if a technician could hit a roadblock in a repair and have the exact fix steps, wiring diagram, and parts verification appear on their screen before they even set their toolkit down? Not a half hour later after digging through PDFs, not after a back and forth with HQ, but right in that moment when they're still next to the equipment. That's the shift when guidance stops being something you hunt for and becomes part of the workflow itself. Today, if a fault shows up that isn't in the basic checklist, most field techs start with whatever they carried in, usually PDFs on a tablet, maybe last year's manual, or some saved photos of previous fixes. If those don't cover it, the next step is calling someone, usually the service manager or another senior tech who might be in the middle of their own job. You end up on hold, texting half-complete fault codes, waiting for someone to check the database back at the office. Every minute spent like that is another minute off schedule and another job delayed. It gets worse under time pressure. Customers want the system running again as soon as possible, so there's a temptation to guess based on the closest match rather than confirm the exact cause. So that can lead to replacing a part that isn't the root problem, masking the issue for a day or two until it reappears. When that happens, you've now got a repeat visit, extra travel, and the awkward conversation about why the fixed equipment failed again. It's not laziness, it's the reality of incomplete resources in the field. This is the problem Copilot tackles by changing where the knowledge lives. Instead of the tech pulling data from static documents, Copilot pushes the right information in context. It links into the organization's repair logs, service manuals, previous case notes, IoT sensor feeds, and even partner maintenance data based on the current work order, asset history, and the issue just logged by the technician. It surfaces relevant guidance instantly. Say a technician is working on a refrigeration unit with an intermittent temperature sensor fault. They describe the behavior into Copilot. Sensor reads high for a short period, then normalizes, happens twice a day. Within seconds, the screen shows 3 past service records with almost identical symptoms. Case 1, bad wiring harness, fixed, no recurrence. Case 2, sensor replaced, fixed. Case 3, controller board replaced, no further issues. It shows the exact replacement part numbers used in those fixes, the time each repair took, and related notes from the technicians who did them. The current asset's maintenance history shows the wiring harness was already replaced 6 months ago, so the likely cause is narrowed down without guesswork. Because this advice isn't scraped from the open web, it's already aligned with the equipment models, parts inventory, and procedures the business actually uses. That means no confusion over incompatible parts or steps that don't match the customer setup. And it's not just about getting it right, it's about getting it right the first time. Field service metrics show that each percentage point increase in first-time fix rate has a visible impact on both cost per job and customer satisfaction scores. With Copilot guiding the diagnosis as it happens, technicians reduce trial and error fixes, which means fewer return visits. The customer experiences a single repair visit instead of 2 or 3. The technician gains accurate in-the-moment learning from the org's own repair history, building experience without formal extra training sessions. And because the support is pulled together on the spot, the tech stays at the job site instead of burning time driving back to the depot or waiting for a call back from HQ. The real change is in rhythm. Problems that used to pause the day now get resolved in the same call out. That's more jobs completed in a shift, fewer delays spilling into tomorrow's schedule, and less load on the back office chasing unresolved tickets. The knowledge that used to sit in a separate silo is now part of the field toolkit. And once the system starts understanding not just the current fault, but the pattern of what tends to fail next, it's in a position to act earlier, calling out likely needs before the technician even opens the housing. That's where real efficiency gains come from. So parts and planning before the ask. The shortest repair is the one where the right part is already sitting on the van shelf. No extra calls, no follow-up visit, no explaining to the customer why you'll be back once the part comes in. But most field service today still runs on a reactive model. A technician diagnoses the fault, confirms what's needed, and only then puts in the request. Best case, a driver runs the part out from the depot the same day. Worst case, it's a multi-day wait and an annoyed customer staring at equipment that still doesn't work. We've all seen how easily a single missing component derails a schedule. One job that should take 40 minutes stretches over 2 visits. That means more travel time, more rescheduling, more admin for dispatch, and the ripple effect of later jobs being pushed back. The customer feels the delay twice, first when their equipment stays offline longer and again when they have to make time for another appointment. Those delays don't just hurt satisfaction scores, they inflate cost per job in a way that's hard to claw back. This is where Copilot changes the sequence. Instead of waiting for the diagnosis to finish and then ordering, it listens to what the technician is reporting and starts matching parts in the background. It doesn't just parse the words, it ties them to the job record, the specific model being serviced, its full service history, and the parts list the company uses. If the tech says motor shaft snapped during the voice update, Copilot can check which motor that model uses, whether it's in current inventory, and where the closest stock is sitting. Picture a job on a warehouse conveyor system. While tightening a belt, the tech spots a seized motor. They mention it in their workflow update. Motor on lane 4 has locked up, bearings gone. Before the technician even looks up, Copilot has pulled up the exact replacement motor part number, confirmed there are 2 in the nearest depot 12 miles away, and flagged that one can be delivered by the end of the current job. Instead of driving to the depot or booking a new visit tomorrow, the technician can swap it today. That kind of mid-job prediction wipes out a lot of wasted miles. You don't need a second truck roll to deliver one part. It's faster for the customer and cheaper for the business. The impact stacks up across the fleet. If 5 techs each avoid one unnecessary trip a week, that's dozens of hours back and reduced fuel and labor costs that show up directly in the budget. It also changes how inventory behaves. Predictive suggestions keep parts moving steadily instead of sitting for months until someone needs them. Stock that turns over regularly is stock that matches actual demand. Over time, the system's understanding of which jobs require which parts lets you fine-tune what's carried in each van or stored in each region. That reduces the dead stock problem and makes stockouts less likely. And this isn't just point-of-use convenience, it's operational intelligence. When Copilot sees the same component being requested across dozens of jobs in different areas, procurement gets an early warning. That can influence buying decisions before shortages happen, help negotiate better pricing on bulk orders, or even trigger a check for a wider product defect. On an individual job, the result is obvious: the right part in the right place at the right time. Across the service operation, it's a shift from reacting to orders after diagnosis to proactively staging what's needed based on patterns. Days come off repair cycles not by making people work faster, but by cutting out the dead time between finding the fault and getting the part on site. The technician experiences fewer stalled jobs, the customer gets resolution in one visit more often, the back office juggles fewer follow-up appointments and spends less on overtime or rush shipping. And management gets cleaner inventory data that reflects real usage, not guesswork. With faster capture in the field and intelligent decision-making mid-job, you're not just saving time, you're building a service operation that's always feeding better information into the next decision. And those decisions don't stop at the van. They shape how the entire back office plans, allocates, and responds in real time. From van notes to executive dashboards. The technician's notes used to live on a clipboard or get thrown into a service app nobody touched until the end of the shift. Now they can be in your analytics dashboard before the van even leaves the customer's driveway. That shift changes who can act on the data and how fast, because it's not just faster capture, it's connected capture. As soon as Copilot structures and confirms the job details, they aren't sitting in a silo. They're moving into the rest of the Dynamics 365 environment where billing, service management, and resource planning live. That means the second a work order is closed in the field, invoicing can trigger automatically. Service reports generate without someone having to cross-check handwritten notes against the CRM. Inventory records adjust in real time based on the parts logged during the job, so procurement can see shifts in stock levels before they become shortages. For resource allocation, job completion updates hit the scheduling system instantly, freeing up the tech's next slot for dispatch without a phone call to confirm they're ready. You can see the difference when you compare this to the old lag. If a tech enters data at 6:30 p.m., the back office only sees it the next morning. That gap isn't just a delay, it changes the quality of decision making. If a supervisor looks at end-of-day data to assign work for tomorrow, they're doing it with stale numbers. Inventory might look fine on paper, but already be short in reality. Follow-up work that could have been scheduled while the tech was still in the field ends up pushed 2 days out. Now imagine opening Power BI midday and seeing an accurate live map of what's been completed, what's in progress, and what parts have moved. You don't need to pull multiple reports or merge spreadsheets. It's all fed from the same connected data stream. If 5 compressors have been replaced across 3 sites before lunch, that trend is visible immediately, not next Monday when someone compiles last week's jobs. That visibility lets you shift jobs between teams, update maintenance plans, or coordinate deliveries without waiting for manual consolidation. Back office workflows get leaner because they can move in parallel with field work instead of after it. Contract updates can start as soon as a specific service threshold is reached. If a warranty claim kicks in based on today's repair, that paperwork can get filed while the job is still fresh. If a safety inspection shows an issue that needs a compliance check, the right people can be notified that afternoon. There's no holding pattern while the paperwork crawls in. The standardization baked into Copilot summaries is what makes this scalable. Every technician's data lands in the same structure, same fields, same formats, so analytics aren't fighting inconsistent inputs. If you're tracking average repair time for a specific model, you're not scrubbing spelling variations or trying to normalize part descriptions. That consistency pays off when you start running trend analysis or forecasting. One service company using structured real-time job data saw enough scheduling efficiency gain to cover an extra appointment per tech per week. Not by working faster, but because schedulers could see with confidence who was actually free and which jobs had wrapped. When the data is live and accurate, you stop padding schedules just in case, and you can fill gaps as they appear. That's where real-time accuracy becomes a capacity boost. And it's not only scheduling that benefits. Finance isn't chasing missing part numbers before invoicing. Operations can adjust routes for the afternoon based on parts usage in the morning. Service managers can pull a same-day escalation report. All of it comes from working off a single source of truth with no separate field version and office version of the facts. When field data flows directly into the operational backbone like this, you stop thinking about admin as a separate delayed process. The repair ends and the business processes downstream of that repair start immediately because they already have the right data in the right place. The result for an organization is a level of clarity and responsiveness that you simply can't get when half the day's work is still sitting in a van's glove box waiting to be typed up. Those operational gains start out looking tactical, faster billing, better scheduling, but they add up to something bigger. You're not just closing gaps in the day-to-day, you're building a service model where fieldwork, data, and decision-making happen as a single connected cycle. And that's where the conversation shifts from speed to transformation. Copilot isn't just helping technicians finish jobs faster, it's removing the drag between work done in the field and the decisions that depend on it. When service details, parts usage, and asset updates are captured the moment they happen, there's no gap for errors or delays to creep in. In an AI-enabled workflow, doing the work and documenting the work become the same action. That's a permanent shift, not a temporary fix. Look at your own field service process and find the steps that wait until later. Those are the bottlenecks real-time capture could erase, and that's where the real gains start.